All right. Welcome to the How to Be a Superhero show. I'm Michael Tamano, the host, and I'm the author of the book How to Be a Superhero. And today I have Nick Estes, and hopefully I said that right.
You did?
Um, Working on names, I'm the absolute worst. It is definitely one of my superhero weaknesses, saying names or even saying words correctly.
It's all
Um,
did fine.
I remember when even just trying to like order some herb chicken, I said herb chicken. So yeah,
Be careful. You gotta be careful of that somewhere,
I'm
someplace.
right. I don't want to order a herb. um, but yeah,
You never
so
know what you're gonna get.
you never know what you're gonna get. I'm super excited to have you. And
I'm glad to be here, man. Thanks for asking me to come on. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that you're doing this. I'm thrilled to see that things have been moving in the right direction for you because I love what you've created and what you're doing. That's why I asked you to be on the Porchville show a while back, and I'm glad to see that you're still fighting the good fight, man. So glad to
thank,
be here. Thanks for having me.
thank you so much. And I'm really excited to have you as well because um I really enjoyed going on your show. It was a fantastic experience, and I want to get more into that. But first, I would love to hear more a little bit about your backstory, and especially so you can share it with the audience.
Ooh, my backstory. What do you want to know? I was born in Flint, Michigan, the drinking water capital of the United States of America. So I came to Florida when I was 10. I've been here ever since.
Cool. And so I know you have a bunch of interesting hobbies and activities. Like, would you like to share some of them? And also,
Well,
especially talk about the podcast.
yeah, podcast. That takes up a lot of the time, a lot of the hobby time these days. In my younger days, I was a bit of a musician. The music we play, I've mentioned this a few times. The music we play at the intro and outro, that's my band, Hollow Days. So, um, other than that, man, it's just wife and kids. Living the dream.
How's the podcast going?
It's good. It's good. It's we've had a little bit of a lull as of lately, just because we're changing out. Co-host Matt, he's not with us anymore full time, because he actually moved down south a little bit to Micanopy. So it's just not really feasible. I mean, we're a show that we're pretty known for, hanging out and having a few drinks and having a good time, and drinking and driving. That's no bueno. So we try to avoid that at all costs. And I can't
Absolutely.
I can't have Matt sleeping on my couch every week. So,
Sounds like he might have more than one drink then upon occasion.
I think we all have more than one on occasion on the porch.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just go right into it then. I really enjoyed your coming on your podcast. You were actually the first podcast that I came on for my book,
Yep.
and you made it such a welcoming experience, and I had just such a fun time. And I actually think that's really one of your superpowers. Like, you're really good at helping people feel at ease, and you gave me a lot of space to talk. Probably too much space because I'm sure I babbled like a crazy maniac.
No,
I'm been working
not
on that.
that's actually for what I do for my venue. We were talking a little bit before we started, about time. Um, I'll I think my longest as of now has been almost 4 hours. Where I sat with
Wow.
just one friend and we went back and forth 4 hours. I know that a lot of people aren't going to sit and listen to all that, but people like me, I will. Like I listened to Joe Rogan, Andrew Schultz today. It's a 3 hour show. I just put it on, do some work, and that's sort of why we just sit back and let it air out. As you've discovered, the time restraints can be hard. They can be hard to work within, and when you're more worried about the clock than you are just the experience, it takes some out of it. So that was
I
that. I mean,
agree.
we don't even have clocks here on the porch at all. There, I couldn't tell you what time it is right now. So that's how we do it.
What I realized too, even with longer content, if I felt that it had run too long, I could just cut it up into smaller pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally works.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you're watching the clock, then it's a big distraction as well.
Yeah. It's important to connect with people, especially now more than ever. I think social media has really hindered that, connectivity that people used to have. And so I think sitting across the table, looking at somebody, looking them in the eye, having a conversation with them, and being present, that's just important. That's the way I look at it.
So it's funny you say that because I was just going to mention that one of your superpowers that I think you have is the ability to listen, and that might not seem like a superpower, but it really is. Like being able to listen to people is huge, and because it's so easy when someone else is talking to think about like what thought you want to say next, and then you're not like really paying attention to them, and and also like you lose a lot too if you're not listening. And then listening can also be not only to other people, but it's a skill that you can use to listen to yourself. And so there's really actually a lot to it. um and so I always felt very much that you were listening to me when I was on the podcast.
That's been something that's been kind of born out of doing the podcast too. I've had a lot of self growth over the last couple of years, due in part to the podcast and just having interesting conversations with people. It can change your perspective and change your views on things. So it's just important, that sorry, got kind of missed there. I got looking off here at something else on the computer. Anyway, bring it back. Where were we? I'm sorry, Michael.
We're talking about listening and how you've grown.
Gosh, I'm sorry.
All good.
I get kind of distracted a little bit sometimes with when I start thinking about, the where I've been over the past couple years, because it's been an interesting ride. And we talked a little bit about that. So
We'll just say that it's so emotional for you that it just kind of it can be overwhelming, and you need a moment to
yeah,
focus yourself.
yeah, to sort of figure out where I'm at there. But sorry.
Nope. Please talk more about that because I think that's a really really important point.
Well, all right. So the last couple years, I gave up smoking cigarettes. So I was a heavy smoker for 26 years of my life,
Wow,
and
congratulations.
gave it up. Thank you very much. It'll be a couple years here, and that caused a lot of issues, chemical issues. Having that being a part of my life and my body for all those years, when I took it away, it caused some negative reactions, caused severe depression, anxiety, stuff like that, stuff that I'd never really had to deal with. And it really helped having this show, to sit and talk to people about their own unique experiences in life and their own hardships, where they've been, how they got through things, to sort of help get me into that, same sort of go get them attitude, I guess. And it really helped, talking to people like you, and just help me get out there and get after it. So being a better listener, which is all sort of ties back to, um, it was something I really had to kind of work at, because I haven't always been a great listener. I'm sure my wife might tell you that as well. But um, you know, sitting there across from somebody who's really laying it out, pouring their heart out, telling you their experiences, you really you want to be invested. And so you take those steps to slow it down. Stop worrying about the next thought. Just be in the moment. Live right now in this moment that we're in. And um, you know, it sort of ties back to the depression stuff and the anxiety stuff, because I really had to tell myself a lot, live in the moment, and stop worrying, because anxiety, it does a lot of crazy stuff, and I think probably affects a lot of people differently. But for me, it was sort of always worrying about the things I can't change, or worrying about future stuff like that. So um it's all been, this whole thing has all been sort of a work in progress, myself, the show, everything. So anyway, that was kind of a long way around, your question, but here we are.
No, so that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's so interesting that you say that, because there's a quote that I really like, um, that those who are stuck in the past, are depressed, and those who are stuck in the future, have anxiety, and that it's like really the only person that's at peace is the one that's in the present. And I think it's by Lao Tzu. So it would be Dao De Ching. But I need to find that exact quote, but
That's cool. I like that.
it's kind of exactly what you said too. How you're anxious
I'll
about
put that
stuff.
on the wall, man. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So it's just kind of really interesting that you really lived that quote.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And it was, I mean, it was tough. I found that I had to be absolutely honest throughout the whole thing. Man, we kind of jumped right into the deep end here off rip, didn't we?
we did.
But that was probably one of the biggest things. I had to be honest with myself, with my wife, with everybody involved, because I knew that all of this was sort of stemming from other things, all this depression and anxiety and all these negative feelings, negative thoughts I had going on. And I knew I had people that loved me. I knew I had friends that loved me, family, all that good stuff. But it has a way of getting in there at you, and you sit there and you just sort of stay focused on that light at the end of the tunnel, and I knew I could get there. I knew I could get through all this, all the stuff that was going on in my own head, but I had to go through it. I knew I had to go through it to get there, and I knew I'd be good for it. I knew I could pull it off, but I didn't think I was going to be able to go through it again, And that's why I was so devoted to seeing it through, like really kicking the bad habit of smoking, and also, I mean, cleansing my body, getting rid of all that toxins that were in there. It took a long time, and I was probably about, it's probably, I'd say 7 months ago, where one day the fog, it just started lifting, and it was probably 3 or 4 days before I felt safe enough to be like, I think I'm starting to feel better overall. Like, I think the tide's starting to turn a little bit, but it took a long time, but keeping focused on the end goal, and keep pushing, man.
This is like one of the best superhero stories I think that exists. So, because really, I'm I don't want to keep quoting stuff, but just back to another quote that um, I think it's by Aristotle, where he says, he counts a man braver that is able to, like deal with himself than defeat his foes, like be able to like confront himself versus like, being able to confront his foes. I'm blanking on the exact quote, but essentially, like the real struggle, like the real mark of a hero or superhero is not necessarily like battling like outside forces. That's like relatively easy oftentimes in comparison to dealing with those inner demons, so to speak, or those inner there's inner things, because it's a lot easier to find a way to distract yourself away from them, and instead of confronting them and being honest with yourself. Being honest with yourself,
Yeah.
I think is one of the most difficult things, and also recognize that something is wrong.
Oh,
But
yeah.
once you start becoming, in my opinion, once you start really putting in the work to be aware of that and really giving it like the full attention that it needs, that's when, you start to get real progress.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you 100%, man. 100%.
So was there anything in particular that helped lift that fog out, or was it like just continued honesty and work on all that?
It was just work, man. It was just work. It was um all you can do is get up every day and grind through it, get through it. And there were days I'd call my wife, I'd be coming home and I'd call her and say I just had a bad day. And she knew what that meant. She knew that meant I was probably going to be in bed under a blanket, for the foreseeable future. And just wasn't anything I could do about it. So you keep getting up. You just keep getting up in the morning. And because, that was the other thing I always noticed was that, like, in the morning, I felt okay. I'd always feel good. It was like, all right, what's today going to bring? Um, and then today would bring it and it would kick me in the teeth and I'd end up at home, like under a blanket, wrestling with my own demons. And but you just get up in the morning and you do it again and you hope for better and you do what you can, you make the changes that you can to impact that, your own situation. I mean, I try to be a I've tried to be a much better person past couple of years. That's been sort of a big shift for me. I always thought I was a good person. I've always just sort of gone about my business. But now I make sure to go out of my way. I go out of my way to smile at somebody or, how's your day going, or try to compliment somebody, try to spread the happiness around, if you will, I guess, a little bit. And it's cool because when you do that, you help somebody else have a great day. You know, change their mood. For instance, I was at a doctor's appointment a couple weeks ago, I think it was, and the lady, she was not having a great day. You could tell from the moment I walked in, she was just, what can I do for you? Didn't want to be there. And I just stopped. How are you today? How's your day going? Smile at her, have a little conversation. By the time I left, she's smiling, she's laughing, she's in a good mood. I did my part, That's all I can do.
Well, and that's so huge. And you may remember, but I put in my book that I think just saying hi to people is the number one way to be a superhero. And so you lived that out. And I mean, that was like the best example
You
that,
still come and sign my copy of your book.
what's that?
You still got to come and sign your copy of my book.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'd be so happy to, but
Next time you're in Porchville.
absolutely. I can't wait. So I think that's so exciting that you had that experience.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's just part of trying to be better, man. And I 100% believe, you get out or you get back what you put out there into the world, So trying to be better about putting positivity out there, trying to be a better dad, a better husband, just a better friend and better person all around. And you know what, truth be told, it all ties back to what we were talking about earlier, listening. That's a big factor. So
you well, first of all, I just want to say that I'm super proud of you for for having the self-awareness uh and having the courage to confront these things, because I mean so many people are unable or unwilling to confront them and find ways to distract themselves, or get drinking habits or drug habits, and go off the rails.
yeah.
And the fact that you took it head on and kept getting back up and had the tenacity to not give up, I think that's fantastic. And
Well, thank you. the process was terrible, but thank you very much. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Really do.
Well, so I think one hopefully plus side of that though is that, now that you've been able to experience that and, even just on here relay your experience and that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, that could be inspiring for, how many people, for potentially millions of people. And, that might help them get through what they're dealing with.
And that's why, that's the why. I don't have to tell anybody about, my experience or my last, couple years. But I hope that if there's somebody listening that that's having a rough go, I hope that they listen and they go, you know what, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can push through. If this schlub over here can get from A to Z, maybe I can too. And and it was therapeutic too, like telling the story. And because during the podcast, we would talk. We always talk fairly openly. I mean, that's the format of our show, is just a bunch of people sitting around talking about whatever. So things would come up, but and I would always be honest about how I was doing, but I definitely held some stuff back, and then uh, slowly started being a little bit more comfortable to talk about it. And now it's like, yeah, I was crazy for months, and I feel 10 times better. And I just tell everybody, just be better people. I think that'll help you get where you want to go. So it's taken a while, but it feels good to be on the other side of it. At least what I hope is on the other side of it. And that's not to say I still don't have those dark days, the hard days. I mean, depression and anxiety, it doesn't go away. It still hangs its head, but it's easier to deal with. I know I feel like I got a much better handle on it, just in general, just on a much better handle on myself in general, I guess I could say.
I know exactly what you're talking about. A lot of people tell me that they think that, I'm just all, just happy all the time, and just like happy go lucky and everything is sunshine and rainbows. And it's not that way at all. It's a constant struggle, and it's really a choice too. Like, do I want to be upset and go down these dark roads and let the negativity creep in, or try to focus on having a good day. And sometimes, like, the best thing I can do is just simply kick myself out of the house. Like that alone, like, usually works a lot of wonders.
Get some sun on your face, and
go say hi to some people.
Yeah, that'll change your perspective, man.
Absolutely. So I think also too, I think it's great that you were able to take insight from other people and like really listen to them, and then use that information to learn and to grow. And so I think you have like a real growth mindset too. I think your mind like is a real growth mindset, and that alone is a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So I mean, that's what it's all about, growing, being a better person. And
I don't know if there's any one person that is perfect or even close to it.
I don't know. The Rock, he's pretty close. That guy, everybody loves Ryan Reynolds. Everybody loves Ryan Reynolds. So well, I mean, he might be about as close to perfect as we're gonna get.
I'm sure they both make mistakes, and actually the Rock's backstory too. I don't know Ryan Reynolds' backstory, but the Rock's backstory is really interesting.
Oh yeah, that guy's got a fascinating story. They
Like
made a TV show, didn't they?
I just remember he gave some speech for, I think, like an NBA team or something.
Yeah.
And like where he was talking about like how he basically had like no money in his pocket and his back was against the wall, and he just went after it.
Mm. Yeah. That's what you got to do. Just get after it. And that's why, like, I love watching where you've started at, where you're at now. I mean, when you and I met, you weren't really, you were like, I'm not really sure which way to go here. I've got this book and we're doing some things. And I mean, a few weeks after the podcast, I see you out there going to schools and working with kids and I'm so glad to see you, like, hard work, man. Like, you're putting in the hours, you're putting in the time, and it's taking you where you want to go. I love that. Um I love that story. My friend AJ, he's a comedian. I've had him on the show numerous times. He's been doing comedy about the same amount of time that the podcast has been around. He's working with Jay Muse, Jay and Silent Bob, from Clerks. You know Jay and Silent Bob.
I do.
Uh, AJ, who's been on this show, is going to go up and film a bit for Clerks 3.
That's so cool.
Like, how amazing is that?
Yeah.
And that guy, I met that guy at a bar doing comedy. It was like, this guy's funny. I want to talk to him on the show. And now it's like, this guy is living his dream because he's just the hardest working person that you'll ever know. And there's something magic about that, like seeing somebody's dreams come to fruition. And I love it, man. I love seeing what you're doing. As soon as I saw you put an episode up of a podcast, I was like, yes. Because you and I, we even talked about doing a podcast way back when. I was like, you should do it. Just jump in there and do it. So I'm glad that you're doing it. I'm glad that this is another piece of the how to be a superhero empire, man. I love it.
The superhero pie.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think your story too is a great example of, well, first of all, it made me think that our biggest obstacles are ourselves, because there's really nothing that we can't do. Like there's very few things. Like I think I might be a little bit too old for the NFL. Like I think that time might have passed, but
Maybe.
really, like there's really no limits.
Hey, Tebow's still trying to get after it. He just hung it up today, for those who don't know. But hey,
yeah,
you got to get in there and try. Why not?
There's no reason not to. You gotta jump in the pit and go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this story. And not to go too much into my stuff, but the book has actually been doing really well, and I'm really excited to get on your show and update. But just some real quick updates that I'm just too excited to share, like I can't hold them back, are that Guardian Ad Litem is actually using the book now for their training.
Yeah, now you posted something about that the other day. Did I see that?
Well, so what I posted the other day was that I finally got permission to donate some copies of the book to the Children's Hospital.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, man. Congratulations! Look at you. This thing's going to be everywhere. I'm telling you, it's going to be bigger than. I don't know. I don't have a lot. It's all electronics, it's all audio. Well, but no, that thing's going to be everywhere, and that's awesome because every kid should read it. Yeah, I'm so thrilled for you, dude. It's great. It really is. It's awesome. Congrats. Here's to you.
So much. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I got my cup of water. We'll do cheers.
Yeah, some water too.
Yeah, exactly. Just it's some flavored water. But yeah, I've just been trying to get into it, like a children's hospital for forever. Like first for my software, and then for my book. So the fact that it finally happened is exciting. And thank you so much for the support. And that's one thing that I really appreciated about coming on your show too, is that it was very obvious that you supported me and supported my book.
Yeah. Well, for one, it's a good cause. So that was kind of a no-brainer. But then you came on the show and you were a cool guy. And I mean, we hung out and we sat here. We had a good time for hours on end. I mean, we sat here 5 hours, I think, and conversed. You're pretty much old pals by that point. So it was a great time, and it was and for this show to be a part of what you're doing is an honor. I'm glad we were able to do it. And man, just found you on where did we? It was the Gainesville.
Yeah, it was gives a word of
mouth.
mouth.
Right, that's right. A friend of mine referred to you and said, "Hey, here's a guy out here. He's got a cool book. Check him out." And it was great. We had a great time, and I'm definitely looking forward. We're gonna do this follow-up thing we're talking about.
My interview too with you was quite an adventure, because I'm not sure if you remember, but it was absolutely freezing out. And so we just had like the little heater, and so we're like kind of huddling around that. And
so most people don't, when they hear Porchville, they don't think anything of it. It's just a name. And then they get here and it's like, oh, you guys are actually on a porch. You're outside. Like right now, I'm sweating. Like, oh my God, it is so hot out, right? It's so humid. But that's part of it. We started this because it was an awesome thing that we all did. Like we just all would get together on the weekend and hang out on the porch. And my place seemed to be the most centrally located and accessible at the time. And I had cool neighbors, and I had speakers on the porch that were really loud. So this was at my old place. We'd get together, we'd hang out until, dawn, watch the sun come up over the trees. And we would have the most amazing conversations. And sometimes new people would show up. You never met them a day in your life, and by the end of it, like just like you and I, we're old friends. And so when we started trying to come up, me and some friends of mine started to come up with some ideas about how to, a premise for a podcast. It was, let's just do what we do. Let's just set a microphone in the middle of the table and let's just record. And that was a terrible idea. It was absolutely god awful. It did not work at all. You had 18 different people having 18 different conversations. And so we realized, if we're going to really do this and take it seriously, we're going to have to rein it in a little bit, but bring the spirit of those long, drawn out late night conversations that go on for hours into God knows what. Let's bring the spirit of that here. And then the other aspect of it was what's your story? Because whenever you would come to the porch for the first time, you'd have to tell your story. Where are you from? Who are you? I don't know who you are. Somebody from the disc golf, came over that evening with somebody I knew or something like that. We would just, or I'll tell you an interesting story. Sort of changed you've heard the term, it's a small world. Everybody, so one night I was sitting at the porch at my house. A friend of mine brought a boyfriend over, and I have a tattoo on my arm that says never forget. And it's in tribute to a friend of mine who passed away in 2001. My friend Andrew. He was 21 years old and on the turnpike going home, and lost control of his car, went across the median, and ended up losing his life. And so sitting at the old house on the porch, I'm talking to this young man, and he's asking me about my tattoo, and I tell him, and he asked me a couple more times here and there, about the details. And he looks over, he says, this is going to be weird, man. He said, but I think I was there the night that your friend passed away. I said, what? I mean, come on. What are the odds? And he told me the story, where he was, about where he was, and that sort of lined up. He told me about my friend's car and that sort of thing. And that lined up. And I mean, shocked doesn't quite do it justice, when you're meeting somebody at a random point, 20 years after, one of the most important moments of my life. And here this guy walks in and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was there." It's like, wow. How does that happen? So finding out what people's stories were became an important thing, And so when we started the podcast, doing that very same thing was like, you just never know where people have been. And so it's really cool to just sit random people down and turn on microphones and start asking questions. Matt Smile was an episode I did with a friend named Matthew Smile. And Matt's a musician and he has MS and he's wheelchair bound at this point. And we went the whole show just talking and hanging out. And then about the last 10 minutes, if you go back and you listen, there's about 10 minutes at the end of the show where this guy just starts to come alive and he starts telling us about the music that he has written and that he's recorded. And despite being, despite MS and, being stuck in this chair and all that stuff, and the guy's got a great attitude, which I, commend him for. But that last 10 minutes of talking to him, I was like, where was all this? Like, man, you, and he started playing us songs and there was so much. It was like, we've got to have you back. And because he came over as a part of a group. And then I think 2 weeks later, we did another episode with him and his story was profound. I mean, I've been through some crazy stuff in my life, some rough times. When you talk to a guy like that, a lot of that stuff can pale in comparison, because it's like, man, this guy's still getting up every day and getting after it. And pretty impressive. So that's where the idea and a lot of the premise for the show came from was just real life, man. Just sitting there asking questions, talking to folks, want to know their story.
It sounds like the fact that you were able to make him feel comfortable and heard is what helped break down that wall for him to share.
That could have been. To know Matt, he's not very shy, he comes in and he'll talk with you. He'll have a conversation with you. Because I think he's also reached a point in his life where he's found that there is a certain importance to his story being shared. It's important for him to tell people where he's been, and because it gives people hope. People that are worse off, people that are just looking up at the world, man, and not knowing if they're going to make it another day, can look at him and go, man, if that guy can get up and get after it, why the heck can't I? So
yeah, it's just like if this person is dealing with this, maybe my situation isn't quite as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah, it can help. It does. It can help a lot of people, man. It really can.
Well, people like him and people like you that push through, the rougher situations, and keep going. That to me, those are the real superheroes and the real inspirations.
Yeah,
and share it.
I always kind of look at myself with it's hard. I guess it's hard to look at yourself and like I look at somebody like Matt or yourself, and I go, man, these guys are the heroes. Me, I'm just telling everybody about them. So it's hard for me to say that about myself, but I take your word And I believe what you say, man. You're a good dude, and I trust in you. So thank you for that, because that does mean a lot for coming from you. I appreciate it.
Well, and hopefully too, it's helping you to see it for yourself,
Oh yeah.
because I mean, even just you sharing all this tonight, it's so obvious what a superhero you are in so many ways, like so many good qualities.
I'm gonna need to adjust my hat size. You keep talking. It's gonna have to increase it.
So,
But thank you, seriously.
well, so one thing of mine that I've worked on is um I'm sure with a lot of people, well, just in general, people are generally a lot quicker to say something negative about people, or about, about somebody else, and not really that quick to say something nice. And so something that I've been working on is when I have, a positive thought about someone, or, something impressed me about someone, sharing that, and sharing it anytime that I can, and anytime that it comes across my mind, like be quick to share good things instead of, the being quick to share like something mean. Uh,
Yep.
and really, I hope you watch this podcast again, and listen to yourself tell your story, and really get to see how many fantastic qualities that you've cultivated, and they're not things that just really came naturally. They're things that you worked towards and wanted, because you wanted to improve. And that tenacity alone is huge. And so I really want to mention too, the fact that you were able to be vulnerable. Like it's difficult, like especially I think as a guy, we're supposed to be,
Oh yeah.
tough, like not have any emotions, not have bad days, and not let anything bug us.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to be vulnerable, that alone takes a massive amount of courage.
Huge, huge, and you're right on that. That that's something that I won't balk at that for a second. Like when that I've noticed how much extra that takes to be vulnerable as a dude. 2021, like yeah, you're expected to be certain, this, that, or the other thing, and to just shed all that, to be vulnerable, to be okay with saying, hey, I'm not okay. Like that's got to be okay. You got to be able to let people know the truth. That's what it boils down to, is just people, men telling the truth, about how we're feeling. And you know, I think it can probably be difficult for anybody to hear, I mean, significant other or whatever, when your dude's talking about he's, just having a rough time mentally. Um, it might be difficult to know how to react to that, but just listening, just being there. That was my wife and I, there were some tough days where early on, where I just didn't know what was going on. I was just always sad or upset or, in my head, and I couldn't really make sense of it. And I found that just talking about it with her, telling her exactly what I was feeling, exactly what was going on in my head, the good, bad, or ugly, all of it, just being open and honest. And when I realized that it was helping me a great deal to be open and honest, it was after that, it was like, oh, the floodgates are open. I'm not going to go back to being the way I was. Like, I don't have time for BS. I don't have time to uh pretend that the world's perfect, that there's issues out there. There's you just got to keep going, man. You just got to keep moving forward, like we keep saying here. And but it can be hard. it can be hard because we're sort of programmed as guys to not share your feelings and all that jazz. You just got to put it out there. Tell how you're feeling, tell what's on your mind. And gosh, man, I get whew, it was rough. But my wife was there, and because I was able to be open and honest with her, I mean that was huge. I mean that was everything. Gave me a soft place to crash, and you know we need that too. We really do. Everybody does. I mean, gosh, we're just kids with beards. That's really all we are. I mean,
I I I 100% agree. I actually did a really big write up about that the other day. So it's just kind of interesting that you mentioned that, because really stuff that affected us in childhood, or like none of that like goes away like once you hit
no,
18.
no, it doesn't. Not at all. And I mean, I moved around a lot as a kid, and so I don't have a lot of those, core relationships with friends I grew up with, all my life or anything like that. So it's not like I have had a lot of people that I could go to and be like, man, you know where I'm at, you know me better than anybody, kind of thing. And that was my wife 100%. She was my rock in all of it. But like I said, it's all about just the openness, honesty, just communication, spitting it out there, just being truthful, being real. We we don't live very long. That's another thing I've realized. I'm 41 now. I mean, I remember being like 5, and that was only like 10 years ago.
Right.
I swear. So it's abundant to me that, we don't have time in this existence for a bunch of stuff that just does harm to our bodies or our mental health or any of that. Just don't need it. Get rid of it.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff honestly that we worry about is almost kind of meaningless oftentimes. Like it like we it builds up so much bigger in our heads. And so
Yeah.
I want to touch on a few things real quick
Sure.
that you mentioned before I lose them. I think it's great that you're able to be vulnerable with your wife, and I think the real success too was learning to be vulnerable with yourself. And being able to accept that vulnerability and like really address it and be okay with it. And
Yeah.
also the fact that you were able to ask your wife for help. That's one of the big parts of my book is, I really think it's a superhero skill to be able to ask for help, because, a lot of people struggle with that. And I'm sure myself included, I'm sure there's many times where I could be way better about that. But oftentimes people actually want to help. And,
Yeah.
and then it gives them some, a sense of meaning to have helped you. And um and so I guess also too, I think one of the reasons why it was so therapeutic for you to talk to your wife is because all the things that were just building in your head, because really like those thoughts can just snowball and just become like this like massive monsters. And
Yeah.
when you have to like take it from your brain and like put it to your mouth and actually you know what I mean, like it makes it real, it makes it tangible, and it takes away its power, in my opinion. And so that's why for me personally, that's why I find journaling really helpful. And so I just write in a Word document,
Yeah.
and just being able to like translate the craziness up here to to paper, it helps vent it out. um
I used to do that a lot, through music, through singing, and
yeah.
getting on stage and yelling at 5 other people in the room. That's oftentimes therapeutic. So but I'm not doing that anymore. So, replace that with the podcast, and there's significantly less yelling, but
So that's actually a perfect segue because I I wanted to mention too that I thought that the fact that you did music, I think that's a superpower that you had the courage to get up on stage. And I saw your music video, and I loved your music video that you shared on YouTube.
Thank you.
And
That was a fun one to do, and I will take the time to mention the inspiration behind that video was my wife's grandfather, who came to live with us. And if you listen to the story of that song is about his life. You know, it's about him losing his father at 2 years old at a young age and being shipped off to live on a farm. You know, and he grew up barefoot, poor in the you know Ocala National Forest, selling peanuts to monkeys on the glass bottom boat rides out there. And just the guy lived an amazing life. You know, he fought in Korea and, you know, settled down in Tampa, lived his life, and I got to spend about 3.5, 4 months with him there at the end of his life. And we got a lot of chance to share stories and just, hear his journey through the world. And, for somebody who's almost 90 years old, there's a lot of really cool stories that they can pack in there. And so what we would do is we would record them at night. Like he'd start talking and I'd hit record on my phone and just sort of set it down. And so at the end of that song is his voice where talking about a quote where a teacher of his said, "You'll never be a math teacher, but you'll be a leader of men." And it sort of fit the theme of the song. The song is very patriotic and whatnot. So it fit. And that was for Ga. So yeah, it was good stuff. Good stuff. Very therapeutic. And awesome to put out in the world. A lot of people dug that song. So
that's really cool. I love that. So I'm gonna have to watch it again, knowing the backstory.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. And Stan Martell up there, Martell Studios in Kingsland, Georgia, he recorded that for us, did all the camera work and everything. And that was actually with a band I had called After the End. It was together a short period after Hollow Days split up, and Hollow Days was together for about 15, 16 years on and off. And had a lot of fun, a lot of fun, a lot of Jaeger.
Well, that's super cool though, because I think a lot of people would be a little bit apprehensive about kind of just jumping into that fray and doing like a music video. And like I love that you stuck to it.
Well, when I was in third grade, I had a teacher. Her name was Miss Lyons. She was not a well-liked teacher up in the system up there. And she gave me this project, and she told me I had to do it. No two ways around it.
I think I remember this.
It was a Thanksgiving project, and I had to get up in front of the class and tell them what 3 items I would take on the Mayflower. What 3 items would I put in a paper bag, take with me on the Mayflower if I was a pilgrim? So I remember my knees literally knocking together. That was the first time I'd ever experienced any sort of severe crippling stage fright. And I never did anything public in front of anybody ever again after that third grade horror show until high school. High school, I got involved in theater, and I met a bunch of cool people. And those really cool people were like, "Hey, man, we're going to build you up and boost you up." And, and so, it was a community. I mean, we all did it. We all helped each other out and worked with each other and became great friends over the years, and that was sort of where I discovered I could sing and went on and started doing that. Cause I had no idea before. It was never even an interest, but it wasn't until like, I think I was a senior in high school before I even knew I could carry a tune in a bucket.
I love that. And I think it's a perfect example of, forming a superhero team, so to speak, where you're all combining your superpowers and helping each other out.
Man, I love how you bring it back, Michael. Love it.
That's my job, right? And well, I do think it's like it's fascinating too, because well, as you know, I put a lot of work into that book, and so when it's actually relevant in, when I see places where like my thinking is actually accurate, which thankfully it has been for the most part. If
Yeah.
I mean, I think pretty much always. I don't know, it makes me happy. But anyway, like I think it's like so cool though, like when people come together and combine their talents and just make something cool. And
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, that teacher gave you a hard time too in that presentation. Like
Oh,
there's something I remember there, because I remember you telling that story when I was on your podcast.
yeah.
And and I remember you weren't a fan, and there's something that she did that
Well, what it was she ended up failing me.
that's what I was thinking it was.
And I had to go be taken to, I think it was, I don't know if it was a shrink or what, but I was 8. I didn't know. So basically they took me to some guy and he tested me, ran all these tests on me for cognitive abilities and just, you know, basic learning. And when they were done, they were like, this kid is not, he doesn't belong in 3rd grade. He's going to 4th grade. Like, we should probably put him in 5th grade, but we'll just keep him in 4th grade where he belongs. So the lady was unhappy about that. But I learned at the time that they'd been trying to get that woman out of the school system for a long time. And after that, I guess she ended up going just retiring or something like that. So it kind of worked out, nobody else had to deal with it, but you know, I'll deal with it. I'll take it. It's all
Well,
right.
I'm really glad that you were able to find that group and to not let it impede you,
Mhm.
because I mentioned this actually on a podcast recently. So this is an example many times where there was a lady, I guess, that she was when she was 5 years old, somebody told her that she was really bad at drawing, and so she
Mhm.
never, or painting, or something like that, and so she never drew or painted again until she was
Really?
like 85 or something, because just that one statement made her think that she was bad at painting or drawing, or whatever. And it turned out that she's actually really fantastic at it, and like made some
And
wonderful paintings.
oh,
And
that's like that's so awesome that she was able to find that, but it's so sad that she was robbed of like 80 years of just
absolutely.
beautiful drawings and expressions and it's but at least she found it. I mean, perseverance, better late than never, I guess.
It's kind of sad too how many stories like this there are.
Mhm.
And so actually a friend of mine, he's a brilliant artist. Like he's like painting on like walls of like buildings, and like just getting all these. He actually painted some stuff for the Gators recently,
Go
and
Gators.
and he had an art teacher that told him that like his art was terrible and that like he was never going to succeed. And like, can you imagine like if he had listened? Like there's
Yeah.
so many, and he's such a fantastic artist. Like the world would have missed out on so much if he had paid attention to this lady. And it makes me wonder too, like how many people do actually listen, because when you get that voice in your head of, I'm
Yeah.
not good enough, like it's so hard to get rid of it.
Yeah. I've
And
never figured out how. It's always in there. Always. I tell people that all the time. Like there's always a voice in my head that's like, yeah, what you're doing right now, just not good enough. Need to be better. Need to be better. Need to be better. But I understand that too. I had a guidance counselor when I was in high school. And she asked me because I did not have great grades. I hope my kids aren't listening. I did not have great grades. And she asked me, she said, well, what do you want to do with your life, with your future? I said, well, I'm gonna play music. I'm gonna play rock and roll. I think is what I said. And she said, oh, so you're gonna clean toilets. And I was like, no, no, lady. I'm gonna play rock and roll.
Wow, what a thing to say.
Yeah. I mean, I at the time I was just like, God, this lady's cracked. What does she know? Looking back on it, as a parent now myself, I'm like, oh wow, that's horrible. That's a terrible thing to say. But I'm glad that despite, you know, what she had to say about it or her opinion on the matter, like I still went out and I was still gonna go out and play rock and roll.
Yeah, you rocked it, literally.
That's what got me to Gainesville, man. That's what kept me here. And then I met my wife, and that's what really sealed the deal. And been here ever since.
Well, good for you. I love hearing stories like that of people being able to persevere. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think sometimes people don't realize the impact that they have on other people, like whether it be positive or negative. And
Yeah.
so I just want to say real quick too. Um, so that's actually something of mine that I deal with, like especially as I have my previous video games like did really well,
Mhm.
and then my book did really well, and so it's like everything that I do, it's now I have like that pressure of like it has to be good, or like am I going to fail at this? I'm because I'm always like trying to do new things, like even like with the podcast, and
Mhm.
I held off on doing it because it's like the weight of your own mind. And
Yeah.
so there's a quote that I came across. I guess I'm the quote master today, although I'm probably messing up probably all of them pretty well. But
Doing fine. I love
yeah,
it.
it was the greatest effort is not concerned with results. And so that to me was it said, just put yourself out there and like don't worry so much about like, if I have like, a million YouTube subscribers, or like if I have one view or 100 views, just get out there and do something, period. And 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 so that's what I'm doing. That's what helped motivate me to just get out
And
and
that
do
can be
something.
hard. That can be hard for people to do, is, to really just throw it out there, put it out there. It's tough, man. And uh, to not be worried, to stand there with that brave face and be like, nah, I'm just gonna. I don't have that. I don't. I don't even post comments on Facebook anymore because my anxiety just it'll drive me nuts. Like, oh, I don't want to put this up here, and so I just leave it alone. Just walk away from it, and try to go do something else more constructive or whatever. But yeah, it's how I roll, man.
When it comes to Facebook, I'm finding at least probably not a bad idea to go do something else, because at least for me, like it sucks me in. It's like a vortex of
Oh yeah,
not
I
time
deleted
at the very
I
least.
deleted it off the phone. It's gone. Finally, I pulled the trigger on it like earlier this week. Um, Now I still use Facebook. I use Facebook for the show and promote it and everything, but I had to get rid of it off the phone. It's nothing but negativity. There's not one person on Facebook that likes anybody else on Facebook. I swear. It's a cesspool of just hatred. So I'm trying, as part of my trying to be better, be nicer, all that jazz. That's part of it. Just get away from it. What's the point? I've deleted more things, more comments that I have written out before I hit submit than I've ever actually posted, because I so often I get in there and I go, I don't know, this may not really come across how I want it to, so maybe I shouldn't post it, or I worry about, is so and so going to take this the wrong way? It's all that happens. Whereas most people just type some stuff out and hit submit. I envy those people.
Well, I think that's really good for you to have that kind of self-awareness. And I don't know if I can bring it up real quick, but so another quote, it's by Marcus Aurelius, where he talks about, like before you say and do stuff, like it's is it useful? Like, is it going to help anybody? Like kind of like putting it through like I think there's like three different filters. And if it fails, it might have been actually Socrates. I guess maybe I've been studying a little bit too much philosophy, but I think it's Socrates. And
I'm just happy all this stuff is lining up. Like all of these quotes that you had. Like I don't know how we're doing
yeah,
this. It's like magic, but it's working out. Because
it's
you got some
it's
cool quotes. You're gonna have to send them to me or like post them all in the show notes or something, man.
I would be absolutely happy to. Yeah, I so during COVID for me, I've been taking that time to do a really deep dive, and so that's where a lot of this stuff is coming from, and just working on confronting my own demons and all that stuff. So your story really resonated with me. Um, so that I mean, so the fact too that I deal with some of the same issues um, is another big reason why I see you as such a big hero and superhero in my eyes, because like I understand how it's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
And that goes the same, man. Like really, I mean, knowing that you deal with a lot of that stuff, it's like I commend people who don't deal with this stuff every day for getting up and getting after it every day. So for people who have to deal with like constant self-loathing, throughout the day and are still up there getting after it and trying to do their part, man, like more power to you. Bravo. Keep doing it.
yeah, well, I think it's I think it's possibly the most important way that you can be a superhero is to be a superhero for yourself first.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say, I mean, if you don't love yourself, you're not going to be any good for anybody else.
And so that's actually a recurring theme too for from some of these podcasts about like that the importance of that, and how if you're able to get yourself work on yourself and get yourself better, like not only are you able to help other people a lot better, but you're also not as much of something that other people have to experience, and so I'm more focusing on like more thinking about like especially people that may have like anger problems that aren't addressing like their anger, and like when they're
That's me, man.
well,
Anger. Oh, all of it. I'm in there.
yeah, and so if you're able to address that and help figure out how to tone that down and work that out versus like relaying that anger on other people. I mean that's huge, and it's
No,
not easy for sure. I think it's
I've dealt with that for a long time, just anger issues, probably attributed I probably attribute a lot of that to growing up just in the situation I grew up in. It was there's a lot of yelling, a lot of anger just in general, a lot of tense days and that sort of rubs off on you after a while, and as much as you may try to resist, the urge to become that person, it's hard not to when that's just drilled down on you
yeah,
so much.
it's the example that you were set.
Yeah. And that's the example I was set, and that's the example that I was determined not to set when I became a dad on my own, and I failed horribly at that. And over the past few years now, I've worked a lot to rebuild a lot of that damage that I've done. Um, and it's hard, man. It really is. There's a lot of times where my kids will look at me, and my daughter, she's like she's pretty intuitive. She knows when I'm having a rough go or whatever, and she'll just come up, put her arm around me, and be like, "Hey, you all right? Doing okay?" And she knows that that'll bring me out. That'll calm me down, chill me out, and everything. Um,
That's so nice.
yeah, well, they
I
know
love that so much.
and I've been very, very open with my kids, my wife, and I say, listen, this is something I struggle with, and so I need help. We all need to sort of work together to get through this, and I mean, there's still times where I one of the probably more frequent, I guess, arguments that we have would be, well, I didn't do this because I thought you were going to react like this. And I find myself going, well, that's justified because that's the way I would have reacted, like a total, jerk. So shifting that, that takes work, changing that, default perspective from somebody else, that's hard, and that's an uphill battle, and I mean, I think the last time I uttered those words was probably like 2 or 3 days ago, where it's like, hey, I understand that's the way I would have reacted, so you're justified there. And then we have to have another conversation that says, that's not where I'm at now. I'm trying to change. I'm trying to be a better person overall. But yeah, I mean, I've wrestled with that. Just those, because like you said, that's the example you're provided. And it's hard not to mimic it.
If I may share something that helped me,
Yeah,
if you don't mind.
lay it on
So
me.
my friend pointed out to me that I'm actually a bit reactive, and I wasn't aware of that, and I was really trying to work on it. And what ended up happening was during COVID, I was actually walking with an elderly gentleman through the park, through Magnolia Park, and I told him about how I was like really struggling with not being reactive, and and I asked him for advice, and he said that what he does is when he sees anger coming on, he says, "I see you. I see what you're trying to do," and then he lets it float down the river.
Mm, I like that.
And
I
I've
like that.
I've found I actually, not to go too far into this because it's kind of a deep dive, but I actually found that it was useful to even have like a conversation with it,
Mhm.
and you can even go back into your memories and find those spots that have triggered, or are kind of like the source of those anger moments, and actually have a conversation with yourself in those memories, and forgive yourself, and give yourself a hug. And it's almost kind of, I think of it as, like we're kind of like a ship going, going through the ocean, like to like different destinations. Like hopefully we have a destination, and it's kind of like untying an anchor that's slowing that ship down. And I've for me, I found that incredibly useful, and also even just making a list of different things that trigger me, or upset me, and just having that awareness
Yeah.
really helped to dissolve the power that those reactions had over me. And now I think pretty much none of those things actually even bother me, because a lot of the times it's even just external stuff that
Mhm.
that I have no control over. So it's like, why get upset about it? I can't do anything about it. All I can do is control myself.
That's one of the ways I quit smoking. Um, Early on, like the first couple weeks, if I would feel that craving coming on, uh, and I should say, when I would get a cough or a cold, I'd quit smoking for a few days. I never understood people who are sick, coughing, and are outside smoking a cigarette. It's like, you're never going to get rid of that. Like, what are you doing? So I'd give it up for a few days here and there. Um, so it wasn't a big deal because that's what happened was I got a cold, and I told the kids, I said, listen, guys, Daddy's quit smoking for a few days, got a cold. And they went, all right, yeah, cool, awesome. And they were thrilled that I wasn't smoking, and they were supportive in that. That was huge. When that happened, I was like, well, I can't, how can I go back now? I gotta move forward. And so that sort of, gave me the push off the ledge. And then there'd be those random days where it would just creep in there, finish a cup of coffee, have dinner, the prime time cigarette moments, and I'd feel it come on. And I just, I don't care. We're not having a cigarette. So you might as well get over it. I'd literally have this conversation in my head, sometimes audibly, if need be. Hopefully there was nobody watching, but I would tell myself, it doesn't matter how bad you want to do that. You're not. So, body, just suck up and deal. Get over it. It's not happening. And so, yeah, that having those conversations, that I believe that 100% can help, man.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that same thing for next time I have any kind of anger or reactivity come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You don't strike me as very angry though, Michael.
I
Every time I see you, you got a smile on your face. You're happy. You're good mood.
well, so one thing that's always been very important to me is that no matter how angry I get, I never want to take it out on somebody else that doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
And also I've learned to, like, even if something does upset me, that it's important to not react to it right away, because generally like a knee jerk reaction is not going to be good.
Yeah.
But I definitely get upset. I definitely get angry, because I'm sure just like with you, sometimes people, it's usually regarding people. Sometimes people aren't the best to me, and it's not always easy to like deal with those situations and not react. But I'll tell you, like, doing uh doing like what I talked about, what that old guy suggested, which sounds pretty much exactly what you were already doing, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool.
It's awesome.
Like that really helped a lot in going into those memories and just identifying what are the things that set me off. Like what are the situations, like what are, like, and what is it making me feel, and why? Because just like we were talking about how we're um just grown up kids, there's usually some kind of like childhood memory or situation or something that happened, or belief that was instilled, that's all coming from, because it's not really the other person, it's what the other person is digging up in us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right on man.
It's like
100%. I mean,
it's like exposing a raw nerve or something, so to speak.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to say it. 100%.
All right, well, awesome. I don't want to keep you too long, but
Oh, it's good. How long we been on now? What we got? We got like 20 minutes.
oh, we're yeah, 20 minutes. It feels that way. So we actually, I think we're actually at about an hour and a half. So you have the record for my longest podcast so far.
I had no doubt. I had no doubt that's how it went down. No,
Well,
that's always a big comment here in Porchville, is that people sit down all the time. They're like, spend how long? Are you serious? Like, I feel like we just started, and that's sort of a testament to what we're doing. Just
it's all been gold, and
yeah,
I'm pretty sure
let
I
it
said
happen.
that. I'm pretty sure I said that exact same thing when I was
Yeah,
with you guys.
yeah, that was good times. We got to do that again soon. Let's make that
Absolutely,
happen.
let's do it.
Awesome.
And
Well, we got an
so
hour and a half in here, man. I just want to say again that what you've been doing is awesome, and I hope to see you continue it. And I hope to see more. More books, more ideas. I mean, you're an idea guy, and I love it. I mean, and I love that when you come up with an idea, you go after it. You're implementing it. I mean, it was great to hear you talking about wanting to go get into schools and teach kids and all that, and then, like I said, to see a few weeks later, there you are, you're going into schools, you're working with kids. And I know unfortunately, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic and everything, so you got kind of
right.
shut down, like, oh, timing. But you know um I'm I was so glad for you that you took that step and you jumped in there, head first. And again, like watching, AJ, uh, it's just cool to see somebody just getting after their dreams, man. I love it. It's one of my, it'll honestly, like, as long as I live and as long as I just continue doing what I'm doing and talking to folks and meeting cool people, it will just always probably be one of the coolest things ever. Just seeing somebody's like seeing it come to fruition for people. I don't know, man. I'm a sucker for the magic. What can I say?
Well,
I'm still wearing a Christmas shirt. Okay. I love magic. What do you want from me?
that's actually one of the superpowers that I wrote down for you. And so I put it as supportive, but so this is actually even something a little bit beyond that, because I have really appreciated how supportive you've been of everything that I've done. Um, even if it's just sometimes like liking my stuff or making a little comment, that goes a long way. And I mean, and it actually really goes a long way too with the Facebook algorithm.
Well,
And
that was a big thing that I realized too, because I've been in bands for so long and everything. I mean, I was in a band before Facebook and MySpace were even a thing. I mean, we used to go hand out flyers, one at a time, quarter sheets, hundreds of them. We'd spend 2 hours downtown just and you'd find 90% of them on the ground, but that's not the point. The point was we were getting out there and doing it. And just to see the transformation from where we were to where we are now, from a getting the word out and, being able to help people, spread their message. It's so much easier now. And to be able to do that with a like, I can give you a like, I can give you, a share, and that's going to go so far, to help, like you said, with the algorithm and whatnot. It's going to heighten your visibility. So the least I can do with all the cool stuff you're out there doing, just give you a like, give it a share. I'm just trying to help do my part to, help everybody know about all the awesome stuff you're doing.
well, I think the fact that you're in so many people's corners and that you care about their success, I mean, that's so huge. And that's easily what I think is one of the most important things that somebody else could do for another person.
Yeah, man. Well, we're just all trying to, we're all trying to do our thing, and we've all got to stick together, help each other, help each other grow. And that was also when I started Porchville. Um, it wasn't about going out. We're not going out taking out ads and trying to bring a bunch of people in there. The show is driven by people who listen to it, by people who share it, and like it and that sort of thing. You know, that's it. That's how people find us. I'm not going to do much more, because I think that I want people that are listening to really listen. That that's how I want them to find us is through those natural means. I don't want an ad or anything like that. Like, no, you did an episode, you shared the episode, so and so does an episode, they share it, their friends like it, maybe they hear it, maybe they come over and like the podcast, and that's it. That's the secret. That's the secret to my format. So but yeah, so I realized in doing all that, like, how important it is to support your friends, support those other artists who you I mean, there's so many guys that have been through that I've got so much faith in what they're doing. Houston Keen, he's out there touring Texas right now. If you haven't heard Houston Keen, go over to Spotify, I believe it is, and follow him because that guy's awesome. AJ doing the comedy thing, you doing your thing. It's awesome, and we can support it by liking it. It's so easy. So do it. Hit the button.
Well, I think that really speaks to your character, though, to to have that much care about other people's success.
Yeah,
It's not a small thing.
I guess, I don't know. I just I tend to try to think about everybody else, I guess, like before me. If I mean, I don't want to sound like I don't, treat myself just fine because I do, but that's just I like that. I'm fine, with what I've got. I'd rather,
Shine the light on other people, so to speak.
yeah, yeah. If this is what I do forever, you know, recording podcasts on my porch to, maybe 5 people, maybe a few thousand people, like that's cool. I'm having a good time. That's why I'm doing it.
So interesting that you say that, because that's exactly the way that I felt doing this podcast.
Mhm.
And actually I realized that, even if no one watches the show, even if like everyone hates it, like if I'm able to even just help someone, have a good experience, like, the guest that comes on, like have a good experience, maybe realize some superpowers that they didn't realize that they had, and then they, are able to recognize those powers and use them out in the world to make things, a little bit of a better place, that can just have massive butterfly effects. And, that alone is just such a huge deal. And so, don't be so concerned about that, because or, like so concerned about
Yeah.
having to try to have like some crazy presence or getting all these likes and whatever. Because like it's just such a good experience, and being able to be a light for other people, period, is it's just so rewarding.
Yeah. It's been fun, man. This is awesome. And I'm loving what you're doing. And I sincerely hope you keep doing it. And I hope you come back to Porchville. We can see you, soon. And like I said, man, I'm excited for what you're doing and for what you're gonna do. Cause I know this ain't it. I know you, and you may not have more right now, but I know you're gonna, and it's gonna be awesome. So keep
So
at it.
I have two quick questions
Shoot.
before we wrap. One is, so this is my favorite part of the show, so I'm wondering what you think my superpowers are.
Your superpowers. For one, you're an incredibly compassionate person, and I love that about you. You're driven, and I think that I think that takes a lot. It really does to like we said, get up every day and get after it. Um, Especially knowing that we share a lot of the same, sort of feelings about being down on ourselves, that sort of thing. And I know the internal issue that can create. So the fact that you can get up every day and you know find a reason to be as awesome as you are and to go out there and try to make other people uh feel great, just feel happy to be living. That's really impressive stuff, man. And I'm just glad we've got you in the world, brother.
Thank you so much. And I could say the exact same thing about you. I'm on both accounts,
Well, I appreciate that.
for sure. And so the last question is, are there any tips that you want to that you would like to give to to our budding superheroes,
Mm.
especially
Tip.
that kind of like wrap all this up, or not
Yeah.
like wrap it up, so to speak, but like kind of summarize it, I guess, wrap it up, or
Just
bring things together, I mean.
I guess I'd say, just be honest. Be honest with yourself. Listen to yourself. Trust in yourself. You know, um, Give yourself a shot, man. You know, you're probably going to do better than you think you would if you just get out there and really try. And I think a lot of people are probably find it a lot easier to sort of just not even bother. It sounds a little too difficult, or I might not know. Just
Right.
throw caution to the wind a little bit, and why not? You'd be surprised the amount of people that'll support you in your endeavors, in your dreams, in your create. I can't count the number of hobbies I've had on one hand that my wife has been like, you're crazy, but if it'll shut you up, like, fine. So um just go out there, just try to make your mark, and you know try to make a positive impact on somebody else in the process.
Awesome. I love that so much.
Yeah, man.
Such a great message.
Well, thank you again, Michael, for having me on. And of course, my shameless plug of the Porchville podcast. Make sure you go over porchvillepod.com, folks, and you can find this guy. Are you on my left on your screen? Because I'm pointing at you right now. Am I pointing at you?
So I'm the opposite the way that I set it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
There we go.
All right. So go over and find this guy. Right? Do you remember which episode you were?
I think, was it 21 maybe? It was.
Yeah, let's call it that.
It was like, it was right around, it was like 1920 or 21.
Well, I hope people go over and check that out, and I hope that you'll come back, give us an update, and
Absolutely.
let us know how you're doing. I'm curious to know how you're doing, how the podcast that you're doing now here will be doing in the future. So keep us posted. Of course, I'm going to share your stuff on the Porchville Pod Facebook page and all that good stuff, so we can try to get the message out there, let everybody know how to become a superhero, man. That's the goal, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming on. I'm so glad that I was able to like give you the same opportunity that you gave me. It's like, it's really cool that it's like that it came like full circle.
It was a blast. It was a little rough there going at the beginning. Kind of got turned around, but hey, it was a great time. And I'm sure that my crazy anxiety will be evaluating it before we even hit publish.
It'll be great.
Awesome.
And so maybe it wasn't even necessarily a crazy turn. Like maybe that's really where it needed to go.
Yeah, maybe. Well, thank you very much, man. We'll do it again soon.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. And to everybody listening, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you have a great day and a great every day. Nick, thank you again for being my amazing guest and my superhero. You're an amazing human being and an absolute pleasure to be around and talk to. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.